Okay, so welcome to Jacques and anybody else that might be attending later. Just let me start this off too by saying that just a heads up for next week, we're actually not going to have the go-to session at the same time, just because I have to actually be somewhere. I have to be at UCF actually next Tuesday night. So we're probably going to have the go-to session on Wednesday of next week. So that's just a heads up. Also, just a little bit of an announcement here. We've been having a lot of trouble in the last few weeks with archiving these go-to sessions. The problem is that they archive, but for whatever reason, in recent weeks, they've been taking up a lot of space. I mean, like about at least two or three times larger than what they used to be. So I'm not sure if that's like a problem with the go-to or they haven't been any longer in terms of the content that we've been talking about. But just in case that happens, though, if we can't archive this, then that's okay because you can go back to previous months that we have archived. They're all pretty much the same. We haven't changed any content. There might be, on some of those old ones, there might be occasionally, like in times when there's a holiday or something like that, we might say, oh, there's an extension or something like this, or we have to rearrange things. But for the most part, all those go-to sessions should be the same. So again, we're going to try to archive this tonight, but if for some reason it becomes like this huge file that we can't put on uh, up on the web on FSO, then just go ahead and check those old documents. In fact, the one from last week was so large we couldn't even put on YouTube. I mean, I guess we could have broken it up, but even YouTube said it was too large to put on there. So if you tried the link for last week, it was not working, but that's okay. We'll try again tonight, but if not, then you can always go back and check out the previous archives. And tonight, for you online students, remember that your blogs are due this week, at this Sunday night at midnight. So make sure to get those in. And this is just kind of a reminder of what you need to do. I know that some people have already submitted theirs, but if you haven't, here's kind of the breakdown of it. Just make sure that they're 300 words each. You need to do two of them for this class. I know that that's different than some of your previous classes, but for this class, you have to do two. And okay, Jacques, you're having difficulty with the audio. Can you hear me now? Let me type this in. Let me go ahead and see if I can do something here. The audio should be working. Okay. That's okay, Jacques, if you have to restart. I'm not sure if it's your computer or mine, but try doing that. And just to make sure, though, I'm looking here at my audio, and it looks to be working. And okay, it looks like Jacques logged off a little bit, and I'm gonna wait a minute before we get started here, just to see if he can get back on, and maybe that'll do the trick. And but as he's doing that, though, just a reminder for you online students. I don't know that I think Jacques is a on-campus student, so I can go ahead and talk a little bit about the online for the online students. Your discussion this week, if you had a chance to take a look at it, it's just to go out and look at some print-on-demand companies. We gave you some examples there in the discussion board, but you are welcome to obviously check out some on your own. Obviously, some new ones pop up all the time. And it's just the discussion for this week is just to go out there, try to do some investigating and try to do some research and try to figure out which ones are good, which ones are not so good, what are some of the advantages of some, what are some of the disadvantages of them, how do they all work, what are the royalty rates, will they get you on iTunes, things like that, okay? And just do some research and try to maybe offer a compare and contrast of a couple of them and kind of explain like which ones that you would like or you would prefer and which ones you would kind of stay away from and why. So like those of you on the music side, you might one of the more popular ones, of course, is TuneCore, right? But then there's other people, other musicians that like CD Baby, okay? Either one is fine. There's no right answer, or wrong answer as to which one you like better, or if you find something else that you like better, like create space or something like that. There's no right or wrong answer. Just go ahead and explain that in the discussion, right? And as always, make sure to do 2 postings to get the full credits, the initial post and also at least 1 response post to somebody. And still waiting for Jacques to log back in. And a lot of times when this happens, I think it's on my computer, but apparently my computer says that it's the mic and speakers are both on, and I can see the dial going back and forth. So I don't think it's my computer this time. But we'll see if Jacques can log back on. And while we're waiting, I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. And I'll be sure to monitor the screen here to see if he does show up. And but for this week, what we're going to take a look at is Project 3, right? And later in the session, I'll show you some examples of previous student work. And okay, so it looks like Jacques is logging back on here. Just going to wait a second before he. Let's see if he can hear me now. Okay, Jacques, it looks like you're logged back on now. Can you hear me now? Just type in the chat box if you can. Maybe not. Let me just type here. Okay, Jacques, we're going to try this again. In fact, let me go ahead here and unmute you here for a second. Okay. Jacques, can you hear me now? It's kind of funny because I could actually hear you when I unmuted you. Hey, Jacques, I have you on unmuted right now, so can you hear me now, or? Okay, looks like Jesse is logging in too. Let's see if they can hear me. And I tell you what, while we're waiting, and I apologize for the tech problems here, let me go ahead here and okay, Jacques says no. Okay, hold on. I'm going to check my settings here just to make sure. I'm going to go to my system preferences here, and I'm just going to check to make sure that the sound is good on my ends. Okay. And it looks like it is. Jesse, looks like you just logged in. Are you able to hear me okay? I have everybody on mute, but can you type in the chat box if you can hear me? Okay, Jesse, you still can't hear me? That's odd. I don't know what the issue might be. Okay, Jesse and Jock, I have you both on unmute, and actually I can hear both of you guys, but you guys can't hear me? Jesse, can you hear me okay? Here, actually, you know what? Wait, hold on. Okay, I think that'll work. Okay, can you guys hear me now? Okay? Okay. Yeah, I forgot that's my mistake too because it's not my fault, but I think that sometimes these go-to sessions, sometimes you have to mute yourself and then unmute you. So for whatever reason, apologize for the tech delay for that, but looks like everything is working now. Okay, so let me just go back for a second. Okay, so just for the online students, remember that your blog post has to be 300 words. Remember, for this class, we do 2 of them. I know that's different from your previous classes, but in this class, we do 2 of them. People have been asking, like, do they have to relate to this class? No, but they do have to relate to the entertainment industry in general, right? So it doesn't have to relate to publishing and distribution, although it certainly could, and that's what you're studying this month. So I mean, it would make sense if you wanted to do like a blog post on some of the Google Doc things that you're finding, things like that. But it doesn't have to be that. But that's remember for you online students, remember that's due Sunday. Okay, so this might be a little bit review for Jacques and maybe um, the rest of anybody that's in the on-ground class that might be coming into this as well. But so I apologize if this is kind of rehashed a little bit from yesterday. But let's take a look here at like what Kim did, and I'm going to kind of segue this into Project 3, and I'm going to show you some examples of some student work for Project 3. And Jacques and Jesse, I know that you were having difficulty with the audio, and so I assume probably everybody else might have that might be watching this on the archive. That's okay. Just a reminder, or just a heads up for, I mentioned this, that next week we're not going to have the go-to session at the same time because I have to be at UCF actually at on Tuesday night. So we'll probably have it Wednesday. So that's just a heads up. And then also kind of a heads up, next week's session will probably be a little bit short because we're not really going to be covering any new material because remember for Project 3, you guys have until this week and then also next week. So next week, there's not really going to be any new material or new assignments with the exception of the online students. We'll go over your discussion for next week, but next week's session will probably be a little bit shorter and we'll talk about Project 3, but obviously I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight and I'm going to show you some examples of some student projects that we did. Okay, so let's look a little bit at what Kim did. So for what you guys have to do for Project 3 is take that exact same content that you did for Project 2, right? Whatever it is, a film treatment, a book proposal, TV treatment, a game project, a music project, whatever it might be, right? You're going to take that same exact content for Project 2, only we're going to kind of eschew the agent side. We're going to not send it to the agents, or we're going to assume that maybe the agent didn't want it, right? So what you're going to do for Project 3 is going to take that content and self-publish it, right? And as Kim probably mentioned in the presentation yesterday, this is kind of a new thing. Like about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, this didn't exist because when people thought of the word self-publishing, that kind of had a bad connotation with it because of all the bad things that have happened in the past with vanity presses and things like that. But the cool thing is that in recent years, this new self-publishing revolution has come in. And this is kind of a cool thing because we'll talk about this next week, but there's an author, for example, by the name of Amanda Hawking, right? And she took her work to various agents, various publishers, and they all rejected her, right? So she said, okay, I'm going to do this self-publishing model. I'm going to follow this. And now, guess what? She's a multimillionaire. Her latest book is now being adapted by the guy that adapted District 9. And so, and she did it all by herself, right? She wasn't able to find an agent, right? So we'll talk more about her next week. But basically, what Kim did is kind of this, right? She had books previously published, but she was interested in self-publishing her latest book, right? Because she said, well, maybe I can make more money doing it this way. You can keep your copyrights. You don't have to sell your rights to the publisher. And so she said, okay, I'll try this, right? So what she did is her book, I don't know if she told you guys this yesterday, but her book is about a famous serial killer. Some people say the most notorious serial killer in world history. She allegedly killed something like 600 of her servant girls, right? And if you've seen the movie The Countess, that's all about her. If you've seen the movie Stay Alive, where they go into a video game, they go inside the video game and they battle her, Countess Bathory. The evil stepmother in Snow White is based on her. There's a lot of movies that came out in the 70s that were based on her. She's in Castlevania, for those of you that are old school Nintendo fans. And that's her, and that's what Kim's book is about. And Kim, being the lawyer that she was interested in the legal aspects of it. So what she did is she went over to Europe and she was able to translate the court records, right? The court documents. And for the